Good morning there, people. It's happy football day. Manchester City play Borussia Dortmund tonight. So we have to chat about it. We have to get on Ahsan, yet again, the 9321, the connected one, to chat about Man City versus Dortmund, because it's going to be a very, very big day of football in the blue half of Manchester. Ahsan, good morning, my friend. How are you doing today? How are you feeling today ahead of this momentous occasion?
Good morning, mate. Yeah, I'm all right. I mean, a little bit. I'm always a little bit nervous and apprehensive when we get to this stage of the Champions League, but it's also my favourite part of the Champions League, even taking into account the way in which we've been dumped out. In the last 4 or 5 years. So yeah, I mean, more than anything, I'm just looking forward to it. I feel as though it's gonna be a really long day today, which generally
Yeah.
means that the longer the day, the bigger the game, because you look at your watch and it's still like 2, 3 o'clock, and you feel like you've been waiting for the game for 8 hours, and then yeah, it's going to be a long day and a big game.
Yeah, I feel that as well from a couple of different angles. Not only just as a fan waiting to watch the game, but also from, I guess, a work perspective, because this is what I do now. So I'm sat there all day waiting for the game like this. Like,
Yeah,
come on, like I've got work and City later, so but I've got the double thing of trying to be getting through with this and making all the videos, and they're thinking, oh, I just wish you kind of get out of the way. I wish it was in the morning, I could get on with it, and just deal with it. But you've got to sit there, and as you said, on big days like this, you just feel the nerves kind of joining, like boiling away, and it's horrible. I'm going to be clock watching all day. I want to say hello as well to everyone in the comments, by the way. It's good to see so many people already here. Don't forget, if you are new to the channel, make sure to hit the subscribe button. And don't forget, if you're new to this guy here, he hosts the 9320 podcast, which is absolutely fantastic. Go check out the 9320 pod, which does absolutely excellent work with the likes of Ahsan, Lloyd, STE, Howard, and loads of other people over there. So go check out the 9320 podcast. It's a link in the description. And follow them at 9320 pod on Twitter as well, because you should do, because they're all absolutely awesome. But as Ahsan was saying, this is a big game. Ahsan, I know, excuse me, I know you're on the confident side. Are you still feeling that confident? Because you're a positive person. You're a naturally optimistic person. Do you share any of the doubts that a lot of City fans are currently having just because City gonna City? Are you there? Or are you
City
somewhere
gonna
else entirely?
City, City gonna City. I like that. I'm I'm nervous. Like, I'm not gonna lie. You know, Dortmund are a top team, and they have the weapons to hurt us. I think I guess why I think I'll be calmer today than I have been in previous years is because all I want to see tonight is what we've seen in the last 27, 28 games. And that is a level of control and a level of patience and a level of coldness as the minutes tick down. And I think the truth is, even if you go back to the game last week, we showed that, because in the end, they score late and we score even later. And for me, that followed a pattern of what's gone on in the last kind of 27, 28 games, where this team has something about them where they're very kind of strong. They're not going to, I mean, yeah, I shouldn't say anything that will tempt too much fate, but they're a side that have shown an element of stability. They've shown that they are capable of controlling counterattacks. They've shown that they're capable of giving the opposition very, very, very few chances. And on the other side, they've shown that they're capable themselves of creating chances. I think tonight is probably going to come down to who takes the first chance that falls their way. I feel as though first goal wins tonight. I feel as though if Dortmund get that first goal, it's going to be a very interesting tie. And I think it'll be hard for City. But on the flip, I think that if City get the first goal, I think that might be enough to settle us to really take control. I feel like I'm making you more nervous
No,
by
no.
the things I'm saying, Steve.
No, I am very independent and arrogant in my own thoughts in that way. Like, I decided I was nervous a long time ago. But no,
Excellent.
I share that general view. And the first goal is crucial. we've both been following City long enough, and I like so many people watching this video long enough to know that there's never a predictable story in Manchester City. It can go either way. We could concede 2 and then somehow manage to turn it around because City are capable of doing that. But I do feel it's a fair presumption that first goal is going to be such a difference maker. Dortmund, obviously at home. Dortmund won't feel they played that badly in the last round. I think City were the better side, still in the balance of play, but they won't feel that they did themselves any harm. And they will definitely feel buoyed by, I guess, an early goal for them. And you do wonder then, even though this City side does feel like a controlled, clinical City side at the moment. I say clinical, but I mean more in the way that they handle games, I guess, as opposed to in front of goal, which they always are. And even though the City side does feel that way, you know, they are humans, as Guardiola rightfully said yesterday in the press conference, you know, and they will be aware of the I guess, their previous rep in this tournament, and it could basically it could tumble away from them if we concede a goal. It could easily be that the confidence is knocked. Having said that, I mean, we have to look at the reaction, you know, as you said, to their equaliser, to go and then basically persist with the way we're playing and push for another goal. We could have easily just gone like, no, let's just keep it 1-1, you know, we've had our confidence knocked, let's keep it calm and let's play it out to full-time whistle. But we didn't in that first leg. We went for another goal, and to me, that was, it was definitely a bit of, you know, it was a Billy Big Bollocks kind of move, that, in my opinion, to actually go for that other goal in a game where we still had 90-odd minutes left in terms of another tie. So I was really impressed when I look back, and obviously your perception of the game changes the more you have time to think about it. Looking back, I was really impressed by how eager they were to fix that mistake of the equaliser, and they were, you know. And they did fix that mistake of the equaliser. Of course, Dortmund will feel good about the away goal, but to be honest, I struggle with the idea as well of City not scoring a goal tonight. Like, I can't see City not scoring. I don't know why, but we pretty much always score, even if we can be wasteful in front of goal. I don't see us not scoring, which to me sounds really encouraging. Yeah, I think we will score. Do you got doubts about that? Well, personally, I think we will do.
I guess that I feel as though it'd be a hell of a thing if we can keep going in the Champions League without a number 9. I think that, you know, that's my biggest fear. If we're going to talk about what I'm worried about, I'm worried about profligacy in front of goal. I'm worried about who's taking the big chance when it comes. When I look across the forward line, I'm just being honest when I say that Foden and Kevin aside, there's not many people in the team that I kind of look at and I go, I know you'll bang a big chance, you know. Yeah. And even Phil, he missed enough last week to show he's human, right? And we've seen Kev have a lot of human moments this season. So that's probably the area where, that's why I feel the first goal is so important, because I feel as though if City can get the first goal, it doesn't really matter where it comes from. Even if, you know, it comes off Diaz's arse from a corner, it really doesn't matter. If we get our noses in front, that will, I believe, elevate confidence in a way that at 0-0, I think it'll be nervy. Yeah,
I guess my point of that is that even when City have let us down in this competition, we've always scored. You know, Lyon, we still scored.
Absolutely.
And against Liverpool, we still scored. Monaco, we scored a lot of goals. So Spurs, we scored an awful lot of goals. I mean, I always think it's not necessarily, we do waste chances, I'm not denying that, but we also create enough chances that usually to score one. So it's often been taking our eye off the ball. Defensively, little mistakes from Laporte, particularly against Spurs, always springs to mind. And the defence against Lyon was just diabolical, if I'm being honest. I thought there was just no shape whatsoever. So I do think, basically, I'm not sure I'm saying we'll score enough, but I personally think we will score because we usually do. Even against Real Madrid, you know, we scored in both ties a couple of goals. So, like, I guess I'm confident we'll score. Whether that's enough or not, I don't know. But I feel like, I don't know. I feel like Kevin De Bruyne will be big tonight. He always is. It's Kevin De Bruyne, you know. But I feel like Kevin De Bruyne, he's got to lay one on the plate for someone or score a penalty or something like that. I don't know. Maybe it's just naivety, but this City side usually do score. Even if it's painful, we do usually score. So I'm hoping I'm hoping to see signs of that. A couple of super chats, by the way. Lagan, thank you so much, mate. No comments there, just a super sticker, but big love to you, Lagan,
Nice
as well.
one, lad.
Yeah, and of course, I want to say over to Luke, who says we have to be confident. 2-1 City. Come on, lads. Luke, we need a bit of that positivity this morning. Thank you so much, Luke, once again for the support. But yeah, we have to be honest, we have to be confident. And I guess Luke touches on a point there anyway, in general, that look, if we can't really be confident now, when can we, Luke's not saying this, but I guess I'm interpreting this way. If we can't be confident now, when can we be confident, really? Because, I mean, like, we're 2-1 up, against a good side. We've won so many games out of so many games. It's been an insane record. This side have proven... This is what I was saying after the Leeds game, which we'll get onto in a second, actually, Ahsan. This is what I was saying after the Leeds game. Like, if we can't trust this side now, then when can we really trust them? Because they've done everything this season, literally everything. They are in all the competitions still. They've been superhuman, basically. And I guess what a lot of us are moaning about, a lot of people moaning about after the Leeds game, is that they weren't even more perfect than they already have been, which seems a very high level to hold them to, basically. But I guess
not realistic.
Yeah, it just when can we? To be honest, I don't think we've got more of an excuse to be confident than we have tonight, than we have over previous years. Given what we know, I think we can be as confident as we reasonably can be. Obviously, there's always I guess what's the word, caveats, but we surely the City side have shown enough. I mean, is there anyone in particular that you feel confident in now, like knowing that they're going to be on the pitch tonight? For example, Ruben Diaz, is he going to be a factor tonight, or they got the Haaland, I guess, who gave him a tough game, and I don't know.
I think the defence, I think the two centre-backs, whoever they are, whether it's Diaz and Stones or Diaz and Laporte, give me big confidence. They really give me big confidence. I think that even taking into account Rodri's performance last week, which probably wasn't his best, I think that in general, his performances in the last 3-4 months give me really big confidence. I think obviously Kev and Phil are just otherworldly in what they can do on a football pitch. Look, I think the line for me, Steve, and I'd be interested to know what you think, is to just a little bit about Leeds and about tonight. So I really get the impression a lot of people don't enjoy watching Man City fans. And it kind of surprises me. If you look at the amount of games that we've won this season, if you look at the overall quality that we deliver week in and week out, feels like people are still a bit like perennially afraid, or like, like it's almost like whatever we do, we should have done more. And that even when we win games, it's like that, because you see critiques after we win games of certain players, and you just kind of go, well, you can't. One of the things that and honestly, I just say this honestly, like I wasn't like this 10 years ago. I've grown up and I've learned a lot, and one of the things that I realize more and more and more is that football really is a team game, and that there's like there's an unquantifiable thing that a top team has, and it's not in the individuals, it's in what they do together. It's in the actions, the little actions and the big actions. It's maybe not a good example, but it kind of is a good example. Bayern Munich are an incredible team, and you see that in the way that they perform over 2 legs against Paris Saint-Germain. They dominate them, and they dominate them because they have something. Their players, there's an automation, there's a level there that is just, it's almost like ballet or something like that. And I think that we have that, and we show it week in and week out. And it feels as though, like, if it's not aesthetically 10 out of 10 for the watching public, people get really angry and annoyed. And I don't think that, we're spoiled in the sense that we watch not just effective football, but pretty football. And the fact that we've had both of those things together for so long has, I think, just set the bar a little bit too high, which means that when something like Saturday against Leeds happens, you see a lot of kind of very visceral and angry reactions, which I think are just conditioned by how good we generally are. They're not really within the context of every... I mean, look, I'm not being funny. Our performance against Leeds is still far more interesting than watching United Spurs, for example. Like the quality on show between those two games, pretty stark, if you ask me.
I agree.
So I think in terms of that sort of thing about confidence tonight, I think that we're a little bit somewhere between enjoyment and confidence, in that maybe we only lose big games, or we only, the little games, everybody goes into them going, you have to win it. And if you don't win it, you just take brickbats. And on the flip side, whenever we go into a big game, I think there's always a little bit of nerves, which is understandable. But I also think people don't really enjoy them. I love them. I've said this for years. Like, I watched the Champions League from when the Champions League began, thinking I'd never see Man City in it. It's honestly that simple. I watched, some of the classic.
I used to watch it for enjoyment, mate. I don't remember that
anymore.
Exactly.
Exactly. Like I watched all, the Inter Milan Barcelona ties between Mourinho and Guardiola. Like however far back you want to go, I've watched the Champions League down the years, loved it. It was always my dream to see City in it. And now City are there. The group stages are dull. We all accept that. They're boring. This is what it's about. It's about today. It's about tonight. And in a way, I get the fact that you want a relatively easy route and everybody wants to get to the final. But at the same time, I'm here to beat Dortmund, to beat Real Madrid, to beat the best teams in the world. I'm not here to get a gimme all the way to the final, and then play some weird team that fluked their way to the final to say that we won the European Cup. I don't need to say we won the European Cup. I'm asked about that. I want to win it in playing against top teams, so that at the end of that tournament, people go, wow, City are the best team in Europe, and they proved it this year. That's kind of how I want to win it. So that will mean we'll have to have games like tonight against top teams like Dortmund, and we'll have to find a way through it, whether it be through being beautiful and pretty, or whether it be through being ugly and just finding a way.
There's an awful lot to unpack there, mate. I'll go back to the start, because I think in general, there could be deep psychological evaluations of Manchester City fans' psyche, and you'd still never get to the bottom of it all. But I think there's I as I've got older, like, my viewpoint has shifted a lot more about frustration from games individually to trying to view them as people a lot more. And my viewpoint definitely changes. And I would advise anyone who is particularly younger watching this, whatever, is like, I remember, I try and look at them through the prism of not superstar footballers, through the prism of just people doing their jobs. And the amount of times, and you can relate to this, and anyone watching this can relate to, I've had a bad day at the work, or a bad day that's no fault of my own, just because sometimes you just have those fucking shit days where everything goes wrong, you make a mistake. But the difference is, between me and you, we make a mistake no one notices, because we're not international superstars. And I guess the difference is as well, between John Stones making a mistake, I don't know, Lewis Dunk making a mistake for Brighton, is no one's going to really care or notice. So I guess the point I'm making is that there's levels of expectation for every single job, but they are proportionate to the situation. And I guess Absolutely. If we had millions of people watching us every single day, we would realise just how much pressure they are. And I'm sat there and I'm forgetting to turn my mic on for a video. No one gives a shit. No one cares. But if that's the equivalent of a footballer, that's a goal conceded, and all of a sudden you've been racially abused on Twitter or something. I don't know. But the point I'm making is, like, I always look at him now as humans. And I guess the point I'm making is with this is, like, I understand things like the Leeds match, because they are, it's happened. It's football. It's normal. And I guess the problem you got when you go on some insane winning streaks that Guardiola's done, Guardiola has normalised the incredulous. Like, he's normalised brilliance to the point where it's not normal. It isn't normal to win 21 games in a row, win 27 out of 29. That is not normal behaviour. And we've learned how not to lose and how to draw. And as a result, we are imploding. And when you combine this ridiculous bubble of brilliance that we created around us, combine that with Man City fans' inherent cynicism, and it is there whether we like it or not, because City fans have been bashed and beaten up and burned more time. This is a deep thing as well. Don't forget, everyone's meant to tell you life's brilliant when you're a really good side. So City fans, we won the lottery. Let's be honest, we got successful. We got all our dreams thrown towards us. It was incredible. Yet everyone still hates us. That's a fucking head fuck. They're right there. I tell you what, like the idea is that you're still fighting battles, even though you're a great side. All of a sudden, it's so weird to be the one everyone that was crap, when everyone laughs at you, and then be the best one, and everyone try and laugh at you as well. It's such a weird psychological thing to do. So I think as Man City fans, inherently, I think we've been a bit burned psychologically, and we are deeply defensive, deeply cynical, because we've been molded and shifted to be that way through years of pain, and also then years of been having to defend ourselves constantly. So because everyone's constantly attacking us from the outside, we start to do it to ourselves. And because once again, Guardiola's created this insane level, insane high standards. And you got to look back to when we got to semi-finals under Pellegrini. This City side wasn't winning 27 out of 29 games. Not even close. We were miles apart from this Man City side. We were not even close to level. Yet, that was fine then. And the point I'm making, I guess, is that we set ourselves, Guardiola set these standards. He set these ridiculous standards, which is incredible. But we can't then use them to shoot ourselves down at the first sign of a mistake. Because as Guardiola keeps saying in press conferences, it's not fair. It's not fair to expect perfection, because they are literally not robots. They are literally not androids. They are humans who have a rough night's sleep, who have newborn children, who are moving to a new country, who have bad days at work like the rest of us. They have less bad days because they are the top of the game. Don't get me wrong. They will have less bad days, but they are also affected by the perceptions of those around them. Of course they are. Like the way I overthink about it, I like other things at times. You will, everyone will. It's human nature to do it. And even though they'll do it less, and I know they're paid very handsomely, they are still people, and they still will make mistakes. And these aren't excuses or anything like that. These are just realizations, and this is why I try not to, myself personally, beat myself up or moan too much after a defeat against Leeds, because what do you expect to happen? What do we expect? Do we expect us to win 28 out of 29 or 29 out of 29? Because if you're genuinely asking that, you're not being fair. You're just not being fair. So I guess the point I'm making is when you go back to the original point, is City fans don't sometimes enjoy it. I think sometimes we don't enjoy it because actually, I do personally, and I know a lot do, but I guess sometimes the more vocal ones are the ones who just feel distressed more than others, and it's not that they don't care; they care probably too much sometimes, and every little thing feels like a potential reason for someone to beat them up over Man City, if that makes sense. So it's almost like ultra defensive. So there's a lot to unpack with Man City. Before I get on to your next, hold that thought, Ahsan. I want to say thank you to Mark as well. Mark, the only team still unbeaten in the Champions League. Mark. That's a fact. That's it's important, and I'm going to leave it on screen for everyone to remember that while we go into tonight. Go on, Ahsan. What are you going to say?
I was just going to say that I think one of the things about the Guardiola era is that, in general, we shouldn't forget to enjoy it, and that's all I'm trying to say.
I agree.
It's just that in my opinion, it'll never be this good again. You ain't ever getting what we're currently getting. You look at all the clubs that Pep has left. It's hard to get back to what Pep takes you to. The post-Guardiola era will be a complicated one. So I think that if we don't take every opportunity to enjoy this...
Hold that thought for 1 second, because I want to interject with just some of those things. 14 games won in a row to win the league, taking back the Centurions, breaking records I never knew existed that were over 100 years old, goal-scoring records, winning streak records, 27 wins out of 29, the formidable season where we won every domestic trophy. We've normalised this, and this is freakishly good. I know we've spent a lot of money and we've got the best, but what Guardiola does, I don't think anyone could do it, because it's what makes Guardiola that good. We need to really try hard to appreciate, as you were just saying, how good it is, because we forget, because it's yesterday's news, and because we live in social media age, everything's gone like that. And you said in our last video, things go in the blink of an eye, and they really do, man. They really do. And we just forget sometimes how good it's been, because it is that good. And once again, I think a lot of people forgot after the Leeds game, we're top of the league by a mile, and and we're still criticising them for having a difficult day at the office, and that's all it was. That's literally all it was. I mean, it was just a necessary rotation, and we had a bad day, and yet we're crucifying them, and it's not fair, in my opinion. It's not fair at all, because we're holding them to levels that just... Go on.
Don't you think that in a way, you said something earlier, which I think was nail on the head, when you said we're very defensive because people hate us, and we're aware of that, right? And I think that feeds.
We weren't sold that, by the way. We weren't sold that. You're meant to be a good team. Everyone's meant to love you, so we weren't sold that.
Exactly, right? But anyway, so we get to that, and I class myself in this, right? That I went through this kind of period where I felt like I was constantly fighting battles, having arguments on Twitter and arguing with journalists and all that sort of stuff. then I kind of had a moment where I don't know, I can't remember what it was, but it was last year during the casting, right? Where I had this moment where I just went, hang on, if you carry on like this, you're not going to enjoy any of this. And actually, in the end, whatever happens, if you win, they'll hate you. So make your mind up. Do you want to be loved or do you want to win? And if you want to win, stop listening to the outside and begin to focus on what's going on inside and enjoy that. And I think that I'm really getting myself there. Like, I'm genuinely not bothered. Like, people can say what they like, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter to me. I want to, like, things like the that weird stat. I think it was in the Leicester game where we had 100% possession for 5 minutes. Things like that, right? Going back and enjoying Gabby Jesus's goal to get 100 points, right?
Yeah, go watch it, everyone, by the way, after this. Go watch it again.
Yeah, go watch that again, because that's... Or somebody stuck a clip up of some of the bangers that Sterling has scored in the Champions League, right? So there's like... I keep seeing these little clips that remind me that we're not like the Scousers, because the Scousers had 18 months that were good. And they've got, like, timelines full of just like, look at this, look at the, Thiago does one no-look pass. It gets comped up for, like, 8 years as the greatest thing ever. We don't do that enough. We're not brave enough to go, like, that's why I did the Foden tweet last week, that Foden should be in the same conversation as Haaland, as Mbappe. We're ashamed to say stuff like that. If he was a rag, they'd already be saying it.
Do you know what, Ahsan? The start of the season, I remember, and it always makes me laugh looking back, but everyone was like, oh, you must have been... Last season was a terrible season for Manchester City. And I was like, hang on. I'm pretty certain our bad season, we came second and won a cup. You're like, that's our bad season. You're like, look at Liverpool's bad season this year, man. That's a capitulation, like, so far. And, like, it was a great season by our previous standards, but I was thinking, imagine that's your off-season every year. Like, every 3 years you have an off-season and you win the Carabao Cup and you finish second. And, like, that wasn't too... I will take that as a bad season, but that once again is our normalization to the point where even the press, like City, were Pep's up for the sack. Is like, didn't we? I feel like I'm losing my mind. Like, didn't we win a trophy last season and come second? Wasn't great, but isn't that like, as far as like off days go? Oh, we got a silver medal. Boo hoo, man. We still came second and we won a trophy. I'm not saying it was good enough, but I'm saying, like, fucking hell, man. Like, this is how high standards are hard. That a failure is now. It's got some mild success in it as well.
Isn't that the conditioning? Isn't that the conditioning from outside that people say you must win everything all the time, otherwise you've spent too much money, right?
And Luke's right here.
And so
elite teams are always hated.
Exactly. And if that conditioning is there from the outside, then I think we've got to find ways to enjoy it, like to begin to kind of go, you know what? I don't care if you hate. Honestly, I genuinely, anybody can say whatever they want about Man City now. It just makes me laugh. Do you know what I mean? It genuinely just makes me laugh. I'm not afraid of, like, you've spent more money than anybody else. Asked. You've got the biggest wage bill in the league. Asked. You've got the biggest squad. Asked. Yeah. I want to keep winning titles. Simple.
And you know what, Josh reckons you're spot on, mate. He says the United fans are just thinking Greenwood and Marshall are the best young players, and this goes back to what you were saying about Foden. Like, we don't sometimes say it with a chest, because we're very humble, and I consider myself in that. I'm often far too humble, and sometimes we should big up our players because they deserve it, don't they, man? They definitely do, because they're good.
There hasn't been a player like, so basically when we talk about Foden, I've been saying for ages that not since Rooney has there been a generational talent like that. And the reason that Foden doesn't get the hype that Rooney gets is because Rooney went to United and Foden's at City. But were Foden at Man United, he'd be the hype train would already have left the station and be halfway to destination madness. But with City, he'll have to score a banger in the Champions League final. Or in fact, to be honest, I think with Foden, he'll do something mad at the Euros, and then he'll be like Rooney.
No, I agree. I mean, maybe there's a blessing in disguise there, because we know like how quickly people like to build them up. So, I think we all know Foden's brilliant. And look, I guess it was weird. Like we were all chatting about it, and like last week, and it was weird actually thinking about Foden, and once again how in our heads we've normalised this 20-year-old kid being the second best player on the pitch in the Champions League quarterfinal, and on a pitch full of top quality players. And like, hang on. That was incredibly impressive. And we're just like, yeah, it's just Phil Foden. Like, why is this? Why aren't we more excited by this? Like, I know we are, but we should be even more excited. Like, I think we should be. I think we should be like, look how fucking good we've got it, man. Like, and I just don't think we say that anywhere near enough. And I try and say this on videos afterwards because I try and do it because I think it's important. And I used to be like you. I used to sit and try and fight all these battles. I used to sit and try and do that as well online. But I got to the point now where I'm like, I don't see the point. I don't see the point. Sometimes anyone who wants to, by the way, go for it. But what I will say is like you go in, you get in an endless debate, and the other person's not going to back down, and they don't go anywhere. So just try and enjoy City for what they are, and know that City are brilliant because we are brilliant, absolutely brilliant. How are you feeling about the lineup tonight, mate? To do a big left turn there because there's Guardiola did say after the game, by the way, which I mentioned in my match preview, he wasn't happy with the pressing and the build-up play. He said that straight after, and he even called Cancelo out, if I remember correctly. He called him out, which is rare. He rarely does that, and that was interesting. And I think Cancelo actually had a poor game against Leeds as well. So there was a few little things where he called out, the pressing and the build-up play. Are you expecting to see any changes as a result of those comments? And
Yes.
the result of the Leeds game, I guess. What do you reckon?
I don't think it's about the Leeds game. I think that I think the team will be Edison, Walker, Diaz, Laporte, Zinchenko, Rodri, KDB, Gundo, Mahrez, Foden, and then pick one of Sterling or Jesus. I think that'll be the team.
Say that one more time because it crackled in my ear then briefly. What was that again? That team?
Edison, Walker, Diaz, Laporte, Zinchenko, Rodri, Gundo, KDB, Mahrez.
Yeah, froze. For me, Ahsan's froze in the most unflattering of positions. Poor guy. I don't know if he's froze for everyone else, but I think Ahsan might be worth just dropping you out and in and out again. There you go. You're back.
Am I back?
Yeah, there you go. You literally just froze for a second. The forward line was... What was your forward line?
My forward line was Mahrez, Foden, and then one of Sterling or Jesus.
So am I right in saying you had no Bernardo there?
Yeah, no Bernardo. No Bernardo, no Cancelo. So Zinchenko comes in for Cancelo and Sterling or Jesus come in for Bernardo.
Josh reckons Bernardo's a must start, and like I understand that. I think there'll be changes. I think there will be. I think there'll be a shock or two tonight, and Bernardo could be the ones who goes. I mean, I don't see him not playing De Bruyne. I don't see him not playing Gundogan, Dortmund. You know, he's like, and Bernardo is, he's a pressing machine. I understand that, but Bernardo was poor. Was poor against Leeds, and there could be some changes. We'll see. I guess we'll see. But I guess one point is that if Gabriel Jesus comes in or Sterling, which I think Gabriel Jesus will come in personally. I've got a feeling he'll play. That means the midfielder's out. That means, and I can't see Foden not playing. And I think Mahrez is probably in the good books at the moment, so it's going to be difficult. I mean, I got a feeling Zinchenko will play as well. I kind of want to see him play, I reckon, because I do feel like we've lost. He's not been playing much recently, Zinchenko. I do feel like we actually have lost a little bit of that control. Just a little bit of it, and it does feel a little bit less calm on the ball. And I'm not sure if it's confirmation bias there or anything like that, or I'm overthinking it, but it does feel just a little bit less controlled. And I wonder how much Zinchenko's part of that, because I've seen all the stats and about how after Rodri, he's like our most involved player when he's on the pitch, which is crazy, in terms of touches and all that kind of stuff. And I think it's because of his tactical intelligence and knowing where to be. So that'll be interesting to see him. Laporte would be interesting. I mean, I presume he's fit because he obviously was out the other day, wasn't he?
He's travelled, yeah.
Yeah, he's travelled. Was it just a precaution the other day, wasn't it? I reckon so.
I don't know. I mean, I hope it was just a precaution, and I hope that he's fully fit and Pep can choose between him, Stones, and Diaz. I think having the option of the three will be a good for tonight.
Yeah. I totally agree with that. I mean, either way, to be honest, any two of them, I'm happy. I trust them all. They were good. But so if I have to ask you, man, like, you don't have to give a score, but prediction: Are you confident about City going through tonight overall?
I don't want to answer a question. I'll tell you what. I'm confident that the game won't be as you described earlier as the second leg against Spurs or the second leg against Monaco. I don't think that tonight is going to be one of those games. I think that it's going to be a game where both teams try to show an element of control and an element of patience, particularly versus 20 or 30, because I don't think from Dortmund's point of view it makes much sense to just like try and press really high and be super aggressive at the very start, because City are just so dangerous in possession that if you do that and City get the away goal, the one little thing that you had to cling to coming into this leg is gone. So I think it'll be a little bit more controlled than those ties. Am I confident? I'm hopeful. Is probably a better way of characterizing it. Confidence is something that it's difficult at this stage of the Champions League when we feel like we've kind of got this far so many times. And I've learned to temper confidence in the Champions League and to try and be a bit more hopeful rather than be like, oh yeah, we're definitely doing this.
I'm with you with that. I'm hopeful, I'm optimistic, but you never know, do you? Let's do a quick transition on the background here, because transfers! Very, very briefly. Yes, only because actually there was a little bit of Raiola stuff, wasn't it? Little Raiola comments, so we'll get onto in a minute. But I want to bring up the super chat first, just from Flocking Sheep. Thank you so much, Flocking Sheep, hence never asleep. Joao Felix, perfect pet player, wasted at Atleti. I like him. What's your thoughts on Joao Felix, man? I can't personally see him coming to Man City. He's a very pet player, but I just don't think we need a false nine, if I'm being honest. But I agree he's a very good footballer, Flocking Sheep, hence never asleep. Are you a fan of Joao Felix, mate?
I am. I think he's a top player. If we didn't have Phil Foden, I think maybe I'd be a bit more looking at it and going, oh, maybe that's a player that we could do in the future. But I think when you've got Foden, who for me is better, just put it bluntly, you don't need to go and sign Joao Felix for 140 million or whatever Atleti would want for him. But he's definitely wasted under Simeone's system.
Yeah, I agree. But the reason I changed the background to transfer target stuff is because, well, Haaland, we're playing him tonight, man. What did you make of Guardiola's quotes after the game, by the way? Because Guardiola was, and Gundogan, they both talked about him very positively. I think Guardiola called him a bastard, which I kind of liked. He's clearly a fan, isn't he? Clearly a fan.
Yes, he's clearly a fan. I mean, the kind of the coded messages are just out of control as far as I'm concerned. Like, it is what it is. Pep loves him. They want him. Yeah. He showed, if you take Haaland out of Dortmund's team last week and you put him in City's team, that game's a massacre. That's kind of the problem. And that's, when you ask me about Champions League and confidence, that's almost the only issue I've got, is we've not got that guy at the end of the chances. So, yeah,
I guarantee they said that, by the way, as well. I guarantee Guardiola sat there going, I wish we had him finishing those chances, because they sit and talk amongst us in the way that we do. Of course, Guardiola sat on the coach on the way back with, I don't know, STE or Brian Kidd or someone like going, I wish we had him, man. He would have buried those chances, because they're human. So there's guarantee, anecdotally, they would have been saying a very, very, very similar thing. And the reason I brought Raiola up, by the way, is because he was chatting to Sport 1, and this is a direct Raiola quote. He said, I've been in Dortmund to talk about Haaland. Zorc, I love the name Zorc, by the way. Sounds like a Superman villain, doesn't he? Zorc made very clear that Borussia do not want to sell Erling. I respect it, but it doesn't mean that I agree. There is no war between me and Dortmund. Apparently, according to Fabrizio Romano, Champions League will be the key. That is the most politest way of saying, yeah, okay, Dortmund, cool, but my player's going to leave this summer. Like, he's literally just said that, publicly in a quote. Unpack that one, Ahsan.
So, I kind of get the feeling that Dortmund and Raiola are in cahoots here. That's the way this is playing out. I get the feeling that they will sell this summer. I get the feeling that they will want and need the money if they don't finish in the Champions League places. And I think that all of this dance and the fact that they've started doing it now, it's just about maximizing the transfer fee in a COVID market. So I think it makes sense for Dortmund to have a strong public stance of he's not for sale. I think it makes sense for Raiola to go, yeah, we understand that you want to keep him, but yeah, we'll talk about that at the end of the season. I think it makes sense for everybody to wait and see where they finish in the league. But again, looking at it from City's point of view, I can only say this. They let Aguero go, right? They
Yeah.
want Haaland. I don't think that they'd be sat here now. And for the record, since the accounts came out, and there has been a lot of stories, I've asked around, and the general line out of City is that nothing's changed. So City's top two targets remain a top centre forward, Erling Haaland, and then a top midfielder, right? So nothing's changed.
So
So
when
for
you
me,
say midfielder, by the way, do you mean defensive midfielder or just or anything?
the
Or
name
do
that
you mean Grealish as well?
the name that keeps coming back is Jack Grealish. And I personally, I said to somebody the other day that I can't see Haaland and Grealish unless one of them is gift wrapped. And what I mean by that is one of those two has got to have a buyout. One of those two has got to have a situation where City don't need to negotiate. They don't need to have conversations. They need to go give a
Just get it
check
done.
and bring the
Yeah,
player
yeah.
home. And if they can do that with one of those two, then maybe they can do both. But
Yeah, because I
if
think
they
it's
have
fair
to
to
go and
say either
well,
both of these transfers, if they didn't have that, would be De Bruyne level saga, if not more. And the
exactly.
City, we'd have the money. We do have the money, but we don't have the. I don't think we have the allotted budget and the stamina for that, because it's just not. It's not feasible for everyone, is it? Because two of those in one summer is just. It's too. We could do it, but it's just too much. I reckon. Like I don't think City would even want to go near that rigmarole. I guess because it'd just be like. It'd be too expensive, and it's just too difficult. So I agree with that. I think it has to
The
be
only
easy in
word of
some way.
Yeah, but the only word of caution that I would advise in terms of writing off City's capacity to do things is, unless I'm mistaken, De Bruyne and Sterling come in the same windows.
I think you are you right there. I think you are right actually.
I am, because they both come the year before Pep comes, right, in the summer
Yeah,
of
no, you're right.
2015. So City can do it. And then if you look at, I mean,
Yeah, we signed him in July, which is quite early for us actually.
yeah,
Sterling was
we've had
mid-July, so like yeah,
we've had we've had a couple of windows that are big in terms of like volumes of players and big players. So, for example, Walker Mendy that summer, Bernardo Walker Mendy, that's a lot of high quality talent. That's a lot of
yep,
negotiations. That's a lot of you know financial juggling and all sorts of business. So, I, I'm not. I'm calling anything off completely in terms of how ambitious City could be this summer.
I've
Um,
heard this, to be honest, mate. Lewis said, "Is the release clause talked about? I'm believing for him for Grealish actually genuine?" I've never heard of this. This is news to me. Genuinely, I've not must have.
so I don't
What
think
have you?
I don't think there's a release clause. What I'm talking about here is that there are definitely stories that have come out from the Villa end that Grealish has got a handshake with them. That if
Okay,
they don't finish if they don't have European football next season, and a Champions League club comes in for him, that there's a fee that he can go for. Right now, that fee might still be 90 or 100 in one go. But the
yeah,
point is that if there is a way for City to go, we don't have to negotiate here, it's a buyout. I think they like that. I think City prefer that, because then they can just make a decision on whether they think the player is of that value. And if they think he's of that value, they'll pay the buyout. So I think that's where we are with, and I feel a little bit the same about Haaland as well. Again, if they don't finish in the Champions League, I wonder whether there isn't some type of agreement between Raiola and Dortmund. I think people always view that people are viewing this through the prism of what Haaland is worth now. I'm viewing it through the prism of what Dortmund paid for him 14 months ago, or whenever it was that they signed him. They paid peanuts for him, and
yeah,
in that contract he signed, 2.5 seasons later, he could leave for 75 million euros. So they already, when they were signing that contract, were planning his exit, and were
yes,
saying to Dortmund, we want an easy out at this point in the contract. So if they're already, when they're planning that, sticking that in, I wouldn't be at all surprised if there's some type of thing, or even a handshake, where they've gone, Dortmund have said 18 months ago, you know, we're not going to put a release clause in for the summer before, and Raiola's gone fine. But if for whatever reason you don't have Champions League football, then he can leave for X. Do you see what I mean? That like,
Yeah.
there's
On that note, by the way, they are. If people haven't been following the Bundesliga, they are currently 7 points off Champions League spot.
Yes.
With only 6 games left to play. Eintracht Frankfurt as well. Looking at their last 5 games, they've drawn 2 and won 3 in a row. So Frankfurt are in good form. So they're chasing a team that. I mean, it's currently looks likely that Dortmund won't be in the Champions League next season.
No, they won't
I can't see.
I don't think they'll do it.
I mean, it's possible, but it looks likely that they won't be. And I can't see how that isn't a massive issue for Dortmund. Like, how is it not a huge issue for a player of the profile of Haaland? I think Haaland's super ambitious, not in an arrogant way, but I think in like he knows that he could be talked about alongside 10 years from now the likes of Ronaldo and so on as one of the most clinical strikers in the game's history. And I think he knows that part of that is carrying on scoring the Champions League. You can't score as many goals in Champions League as he already has done at this young age and then just have a season off. Like, he can do, but I don't think he wants to. I wouldn't think he'd want to do that in a second. I think he demands that high excellence from himself, and as a result, he'll demand that high excellence from his club and where he's at as well, because he's definitely done his bit, and he's definitely done his bit. So, I don't know. He looks like he revels at this pro level to me, and I can't see someone with that insane desire, an insane level of self-improvement, which he clearly definitely has, just accepting like, all right, I'll take a year without not being in the Champions League. Can you imagine Ronaldo doing that or Messi doing that? No chance, absolutely no chance. And I think he's cut from a similar cloth mentally. So I think he will want to go, and I think that's where Dortmund's hand will be forced. Hopefully it's the City, but I think it's inevitable that he's going to leave this summer, especially if that happens, because it seems like they've got no cards to play. Then they lose a lot of money, and then they potentially they have an unhappy-ish player, and they lose him for maybe even more the year after. I don't know, man. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense.
I think what Dortmund could do with the fees that they would bank for Haaland and for Sancho would set them up for a new cycle for 5 or 10 years. So it would be, I don't know, like there's an arrogance there with the German clubs, particularly with regards to City, where maybe they would try and cut off their nose to spite their face and go, we don't care. We're not going to sell him. But I don't believe that. I think this is all a dance between Raiola and Dortmund and Alfie to get the biggest fee that they can get for a player that will have a limited market this summer because of what he's going to end up costing. So, yeah, I mean...
it's notable, by the way. It was notable that this is the people that Raiola spoke to, Sport 1, and on the very same day they reported that Haaland favours Real Madrid and Man City. I mean, they literally spoke to him on that same day. I don't know if the two are linked, but it's funny that it comes out that he favours those two clubs on the same day Raiola talks to Sport 1 as well. So, that, I mean, once again, like, I think it's pretty obvious. Go on.
Shall I redefine favours? Yeah? What Minnow is actually saying? Those are the only two clubs that can afford him this summer.
And that's pretty much spot on, I would say. I think that's probably... I mean, how did Real Madrid do it? They'll find a way, won't they? I mean, I'm hoping the Mbappe thing is a factor, because he clearly wants Madrid, and Madrid would clearly take him. Has he got a year left, hasn't he, after this? Is it a year left?
Mbappe?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he goes on a free next summer. So my gut feeling is
hang
that...
around.
Well... I think him and Neymar may well end up signing up at Paris again. I don't know. It's almost impossible to predict what's going to go on with those two lads at Paris. But I also don't think Madrid are realistic in the sense that, and this is just me, so nobody take this as like inside information or anything like that. I think Haaland's already decided he only wants to go at City. I think all the doors are closed. I think that we're at the stage now where Raiola knows, Alfie knows, Dortmund knows, and City know. And everything that goes on between now and the end of the season is just a little bit of a dance to try and get as much money as possible out of City come the end of the saga. But I would find it unbelievable if Erling Haaland moved to any other football club this summer. It's not happening. Not for me, anyway.
That's some bold bold talk, mate. Genuinely bold talk, and I hope you're right. And I guess I hope he has a terrible game tonight as well. I want him to feel Man City's brilliance tonight, Haaland. I want him genuinely to sit there and go, I wish that was Foden playing me those passes. I wish it was Kevin De Bruyne playing those passes because let's see as well tonight. By the way, if he rocks up wearing any blue gear, that'll be interesting. Won't it? Maybe he's there wearing a blue jacket.
Apparently, he's used that blue backpack all the way through the Champions League this season. But still,
he's not stupid. He's not stupid. I'd be doing, even if I wasn't going to sign for the club, I'd be doing it for a laugh anyway. I'd be like, this is fun. I'd want to see the Twitter breakdowns. I'd want to see the social media, like
anybody with any connection to Man City who looks at an article that is sky blue knows exactly what it means when they buy it. Do you understand what I mean? Like when I go into a shop, because I've got an affinity to City, that's City blue, and you're buying it because it's City blue because of your affinity. So it's cool. I know why he bought the backpack. It's not. It doesn't. The coded message is not that I'm coming to City now. The coded message was when he bought it. I'm a City fan. Like it's sky blue. I'm having that all day long.
No, you're right. You can't if you've got a connection to the club. You just can't help it. Like red will always be Man United to me. Like it will always be Man United and not Liverpool. It'll be Man United to me because I'm a City fan. And blue will always be. Nicola will go, oh, it's City blue. That's what she'll say. And she's Nicola's only been a City fan since she met me. You know, so even she will go. Oh,
Claire's the same. Claire's exactly the same. Now it's City blue.
But that's the thing about football. You view life through when you're a football fan, you view life through the football prism, don't you? And that's like, and Haaland, of course, Haaland will do exactly the same. He's not what colour the mould will play in. I think they were blue as well, but he's not going to mould or blue, is he? Because it's not even the same kind of colour. Like he will know it's. Of course, he fucking knows. Oh, I'm wearing blue trainers on the day. Like he's not stupid. Not saying it means anything, but he's definitely doing it intentionally, which is very, very interesting because we can't help but do that. Anyway, guys, that brings us to the end of this wonderful hearty chat with Ahsan.
Wait, hold on.
Hold on. Oh shit, go on. I can carry on, man. I can go all day.
We're not talking about that Harry Kane story. We're not doing that Harry Kane in the Athletic. He wants to leave so desperately.
Do you know what? Mate, do you know what? Life moves so quickly that I forgot about that because it's like, when was that? 3 days ago? That's a fucking lifetime,
4 days ago. Yeah.
4 days. I was just being polite. I'm not wasting your time. If you want to chat about it, I'm all ears, man. I'm sat here. You take it away.
Straight question. Would you have Harry Kane so let's say, for argument's sake, that Haaland can't happen, right? Let's say that he gets a terrible injury and he's out for a year, and it's just like, oh my God. Would Kane be your number two?
Caveat, I think he's a snidey cunt, and sorry for the dropping the C word there. I think Kane is genuinely, he annoys the hell out of me, but he's a brilliant footballer, absolutely brilliant footballer, and I would have him because I think he'd score a load of goals. I would be scared. I mean, I always do this with money, and I try not to do it because I try not to I try not to go, I try not to think about money too much because it ain't my money. I don't really give a shit how much money they spend if they want to. I just want to see City do some good football, score some good goals, win some trophies and make me happy. That's all I want to see because I'm a football fan. So I try not to think about it. But at the same time, you can't help it because it's all you see on social media all day. And it doesn't depend how much because I wouldn't really ultimately care, but I would be going, oh, is that wise if we spent 200 million or something stupid, you know? But Kane for a reasonable fee, you know, he obviously has those injury records, but he's going to score an awful lot of goals, man. He'd score an awful lot of goals for Manchester City. Like, I think he would score just stupid amount of goals for City. Having said that, I'm aware I would say he's Aguero 28 in terms of his age, in the way that Aguero is now 32 and looking a bit old. I would say Kane is probably very similar in terms of, I think, injuries. Everyone goes, oh yeah, but look at Zlatan playing until he's 40. Kane ain't going to be that, in my opinion. Kane's already been injury prone in his career, so I reckon Kane will slow down by early-ish 30s because I think injuries will catch up to in the way that they have Aguero. So I might be wrong there, but I've got a feeling Kane will be like, by the time he's 32, 33, I think he'll have an injury.
Don't you think one of his issues has been Spurs' over-reliance on him and the fact that he's always rushed back from injury and he plays every minute of every game that matters? And at Manchester City, that just wouldn't be the case. I agree.
I wonder the damage he's done, though, I guess, is what point I'm making.
That's a fair point. Like,
he's had so many surgeries and knees injuries and stuff like that.
Exactly.
You just wonder if... That
we can't know. You're right about that. But, I mean, look, I think that the Kane thing is a very interesting one in that I find like the media's obsession with Daniel Levy to be a bit weird. in that Spurs have always been a selling club, and they always sell players, and like people always there's this kind of almost like weird fanboying in the media about Daniel Levy as a negotiator, and I just kind of always go, if you sell your best players, what are you talking about? Like, why is everybody going, oh, but look at Daniel, look at the money that he got. The supporters aren't getting that money. The money isn't being reinvested in the squad. And Spurs' owner is a billionaire who lives offshore on a yacht somewhere in the Bahamas or somewhere like that. So, you know, there's this kind of plucky underdog thing with Levy and Spurs that the media try and put forward. And I'm just like, that needs to get in the bin. Now, I look at it like this. It'll be interesting
He's been making
to
some
see.
bad calls as well, by the way, recently. Genuinely, he's been making, like, Mourinho was a bad call. That was a desperate attempt to try and salvage a reputation. It was a terrible call, and it was obviously a terrible call, and it's been proven a terrible call. And I still maintain it, mainly because he was never the man for that job ever. But Levy's been obsessed with the idea of someone like Mourinho for an awful long time. So that was a heart thing instead of a head thing. He wanted a superstar manager at any expense, really, eventually, and like he got Mourinho, and it was just a stupid call in my opinion. Like, even sanctioning the return of Bale, that was that was not a head decision either. So I think he's making rash calls at the moment.
Absolutely. I think that one of the things that I thought was quite funny is the all or nothing, the Spurs version.
I never saw that, if I'm being honest.
Oh man, like it really. The thing that I really. The reason that I was like, the Athletic thing really made me laugh a lot, right, is because they really went hard on them. Wow, Daniel Levy's like such a ball breaker. Wow. Yeah. And I'm like, hang on, lads, we've all seen All or Nothing now. He's a fanboy. He got starry-eyed in front of Mourinho. He's just not.
I didn't know that, and that was my impression of him anyway. Like,
obviously, mate, you've got to see what he's like with Mourinho. He's like a starry-eyed fanboy, and it's
That's
just
mad.
like, oh wow,
can you imagine Caldoon doing that, man. Caldoon or Ferran, no, they'd be like, they literally exude big dick energy, don't those two? They're like, proper, like, and Ferran's like 6'4" as well. I think he's massive, so he's like physically imposing, confident as anything.
There's no comparison. Yeah, there's no comparison between Daniel Levy and operators like the guys who are running City. And I'm very like cynical about this kind of. There's a kind of weird Spurs media clique, and they just love to give Daniel Levy some weird big dick energy. But for that reason and that reason alone, I'd love it if Spurs sold. If somebody went hard, even if it was United, I'd love it. One, if Harry Kane threw in a transfer request as soon as the season ended, and then he was forced to sell Kane to United, because it'd just be like, you know, for even if they paid 150 million for him, it would be an amazing deal for United. And for Kane, it would just for Spurs, it would just reinforce the fact that they're a small selling club. Soz, lads.
Yeah, thankfully, I don't think any Spurs fans will get 58 minutes through this video to watch that or hear that. But either way, it's like, no, I to be honest, it's a weird one with Kane, because he's been part of the club for a long time. He clearly loves the club. He will do. He'll love it. It means so much to him. And it's a strange thing where you are very handsomely rewarded for what you do, but then you've got a and football players they do care what people think about them. They do. They do. And I'm not sure how willing he is to at least publicly upset Spurs fans. We'll see, because that's the big test of how much he really. Unfortunately, because he signed that contract, that's if he wants to leave Spurs, he has to force it, and like it's entirely on Kane. It's entirely on Kane. Does he have the? And I mean this, and I don't want to sound harsh. Does he have the bottle to do that? And it is a case of bottle, because he has to make life difficult for a few months for himself to get short-term pain for massive gain, but he has to do that, and that's the decision he took when he signed an expensive new contract and tied himself down for the future. And that's a decision Grealish took, and this decision Zaha took as well, by the way. Those two people are both an example of players who just thought about the short-term thing while also screwing over their long-term potential exits from the club or whatever. And they're entitled to do that, for what I'm saying is, but this, I don't think sometimes some players in this country play smart or even deal smart, and I feel like there's a few examples where look at Neymar and Mbappe, by the way, and like people like them. They know what they're doing. They're in control of their future if they want to. They know they haven't signed the contract because they don't want to go. They can go, like, and they're giving themselves that situation. And I feel like Kane hasn't played the field anywhere near as smartly as that. And I guess as much as we have a go at people like Mino Raiola, and as much as he comes across as slimy and egotistical, that man knows what he's doing, man. He knows how to get his player out of the club.
There. I was going.
Yeah, he knows how to do it. And Kane could do worse than have a Raiola. No,
do you know who Kane's agent is?
He needs Raiola. He needs Raiola.
So apparently, Kane is repped by his brother and his best friend, right? So question
naive.
Answered, right? So
big.
now next thing, flip side. You mentioned Grealish. Grealish is repped by Jonathan Barnett, who's a very, very, very canny operator, which leads me to believe that he will have looked at the value of his client last year when they were signing that contract, looked at Villa, looked at the fact that they know Grealish is good enough to play in the Champions League. And I find it impossible to believe that they've signed that contract without some conversation with the owners about Grealish's ambitions and how and when he can realize those ambitions and what he needs to do at Villa before they will let him go and realize those ambitions. I think this is the, and it'll be interesting to see, maybe in the end, Grealish can't move and Kane can't move. And then that shows that you can have a big agent and it doesn't make a difference. But as we sit here right now, I suspect Harry Kane's problem is that, he was badly advised when he signed that contract in 2018. And he probably he probably said something daft like, I want to spend the rest of my career here, Daniel. Yeah. And they're just going to hold him to that now. Do you know what I mean?
And what was going on with Spurs at the time, by the way? Like Levy, Premier League. When did he sign the contract? Kane contract.
2000. So it was the summer of 2018. Poch was flying high.
I'm having a look at the Premier League table now. Yeah, I'm about to say, weren't Spurs on the up there? They were third. They were miles behind City because that was our Centurion season, but they were third. Yeah. Had Liverpool, Chelsea, Arsenal. And the season before they had finished, let's have a look, second the season before, only 7 points off Chelsea the season before. So yeah, Poch was doing some good shit, and then the season after that they finished the Champions League as well. So do you know what? I understand as a fan and all that kind of stuff, which he would because he's through the academy, not necessarily. I know he's an Arsenal fan allegedly, whatever. But as a lifelong fan, from the academy, maybe it made sense in his head, but I do feel like he wasn't savvy enough, man. Like, and maybe he was sold it, maybe he believed it, but like I think. I guess this is the test of him now. It's a test of him because Kane's a brilliant player, and I was chatting about this with someone recently, and like unfortunately, legacy is so important to footballers because that's all they've got. Once they've got to 35, 40 and they're hanging up their boots, the thing that gets them those big brand deals after that, the thing that gets them those adverts after that, the thing that gets them on the punditry and all that kind of stuff is that legacy, and it is, and that's what further maintains their career after the game's over. And you also tell your grandkids it and all that kind of stuff, and you dine out on it, and you've got a short career, so it's a very well paid career. Don't get me wrong, but you need to have a feeling of not having any regrets. You have to. You're going to end your career. It shouldn't matter, but you don't want to. It'd kill me if I was Harry Kane everyone going, yeah, but every time they mention it. Because I guarantee you, regardless of how many goals Kane scores, if he doesn't win any more trophies, I say any trophies, and stays at Spurs, people will always say Drogba's better, Aguero's better, Shearer's better,
definitely,
Henry's better. And even if it might not be true, but the point is they'll never even argue it because that shouldn't matter because it shouldn't matter. But it will matter to him because of course it will, because everyone wants to be appreciated for what they've given to the game, and everyone wants to be appreciated for how hard they work and their talent, and everyone wants to feel appreciated. And legacy does matter to footballers because it's all they've got. It's all they've got when they hang up those boots. And so Kane now, it's a big test of where he wants to be and how he wants to be perceived. And it's on him. It's entirely on him. And this summer, I feel like is the summer that he maybe not. He could do it this summer after, but either way. It's going to be very interesting, and I don't think, for what it's worth, it's a coincidence it came out in the Athletics. They've got some people connected to Spurs and all that kind of stuff, and that's
very close to that dressing room.
Yeah, I 100% believe
horse's
it's true.
Mouth. Yeah, that's horse's mouth. That is that when I saw the headline, then I read the piece. I was like, Wow. Harry Kane has
Ahsan,
finally grown some cojones.
I've got a phone call. You carry on talking for a minute about Harry Kane. I'll be back in a second, okay? Go for it. Let's talk
What?
about transfers. Tell me what you think about
Okay.
Haaland. Be back in 1 second. Go for it.
I'm not going to talk about Haaland. I've already talked about Haaland. I don't really know what I'm going to say about Harry Kane,
Talk about
other
Aguero.
than,
Go ahead.
well, actually, you know what? I would. The one thing I would say is that I'd be a little bit cautious about completely writing off the idea
Sure, I missed the
that
call anyway.
Harry Kane is a player that City could want this summer. I wouldn't completely write it off because I think there is a perfect storm in which Kane ends up at City.
Yeah.
I think that it would need a lot of things to happen. I think it would need Haaland to go tits up. I think it would need Harry Kane to do something outrageous. Like I think he'd have to do an interview in the BBC on the BBC or something like that before he went to the Euros and just talk about broken promises and Daniel Levy and just make it impossible for him to go back to that football club after the Euros. And I think then maybe that's the kind of moment where City go, well, look, at 120, at 120, the reason I wanted to talk about that is just to say, don't forget what Khaldoon said last summer. He said something last summer which everybody applied to Messi, but can be applied to Harry Kane equally. Khaldoon said, generally our profile is young, up and coming players, but there will be exceptions. For the right player, we will make the exception and sign an older player. So
Yeah.
I don't think City is so boxed in that they'd never sign a 27, 28-year-old if they felt he could have a massive impact. And I think for Kane coming to City after the season City have just had, I think that's the title move. That's why I think you're right. It's this summer or never, because if he wants a title move, then it's right now. It's really, really right now.
No, I'm with you, man. Sorry about that, by the way. Basically, a estate agent called me, and me and Nick will be looking for houses at the moment, stuff like that. So I was there like, oh shit, it's a house I inquired about last night.
Mate,
So
I panicked, and then I thought, oh wow, Steve really does have a hard job because he has to do this all the time, just talking to the audience that are out there. Whereas me, I was like,
it's fine.
I'm just talking to you. I find it easy because I'm just chatting to you.
No, you nailed it. I could hear you still on my earphones. You're totally fine, man. But I better go and return that call, mate. I better go and return it because it's important life stuff. But and we've been chatting for over an hour again, once again, Ahsan. It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure, a genuine pleasure once again. I'm sure we'll be doing lots and lots more of this in the future because there's loads to talk about when it comes to City, isn't there? There always is. Guys, don't forget to go and check out Ahsan on the 9320 podcast. Of course, there's a link in the description. Of course, you should go and follow at 9320 pod as well because if you like this, basically, this with loads of blokes, a lot more sensible and know just as much, if not more, probably more about Man City than me, definitely more actually, because there's wonderful people over there in the world of 9320 podcast, so go and follow them over on Twitter. And of course, Ahsan, you all know him by now. Ahsan's an absolute legend. Ahsan, mate, I hope the next time I speak to you, you're a very happy man because tonight's going to be a big night in the world of Manchester City. And if you're up for it, and the life's good, or even if it's bad, just drop me a text on WhatsApp, man, and we'll jump on straight again.
Excellent.
Guys, have a wonderful day. Hopefully you have an incredible day if you're watching this. Come on, City. Do not let us down. I, of course, will be live later for the watch along and then the fan view live and all that kind of stuff. I'm hoping I don't have to put on a brave face because I can't be arsed with that today. Don't let me down, City, you little bastards. Don't do it. Like, comment, subscribe, go follow Ahsan. In a bit, guys. See you later.
See you later, lads.
Come on, City.